In a world.
Mate, hold up. We said we're done with the serious intros.
Who said?
Well, we did.
I don't remember that.
Well, I said it, and you're me, so, you know.
Well, I don't care. In a world.
Hey, I told you. We're keeping it light.
You do it on your own then.
Well, technically, I already am. So, anyway. Fuck yeah. Pure wild flight. Get it down ya. How good? Visit nzaerosports.com.
I get to do the next one.
Well, obviously, you moron. We both do.
Of course, I absolutely love the NZ Aerosports business model. I mean, come on. One glance at an Icarus fuck yeah sticker and you know it lines up perfectly with the fucking pilot mentality. But outside their wonderful use of colorful language and a great company vibe, there's a long list of reasons to say NZ Aerosports fuck yeah. NZ Aerosports blows me away right out of the gate as a canopy manufacturer with a bold offer. They give you 10 jumps on your brand new nylon to decide if you want to keep it, swap it out, or even return it for a refund. I mean, seriously, how incredible is that? That's like getting halfway through a prom and deciding you prefer the slightly racier date that goes down faster. Seriously, they do that. If you're not madly in love with your new canopy after 10 jumps, they'll let you swap it out for another size or model, or even get your money back. And the range of canopies they've got? Man, they've got a style canopy to fit every jumper and every situation with models you know and trust, like the Sapphire 3, the perfect choice for the beginner or intermediate canopy pilot. The Crossfire 3, when you're ready to kick it up that elliptical notch. The JFX 2, if you're looking to up your new swoop game. The Leia as the workhorse and dirtwater dirt beast. Or the Petra. The Petra cranks out crazy power and is nothing short of a record breaker. But hey, it's not always about speed either. Take the Kraken. Built as a low pack volume canopy specifically with wingsuiting in mind, she gives you all the performance you're looking for with the reliability you need that'll have you itching for that next formation, rodeo, or puffy cloud. So the equipment is top of the line kick-ass stuff as you already know, but how about the team? Well, the customer service gang is there to sort you out whenever you need them. Maddie and Beto are always there to help with Jen holding the reins. They're available for you at sales@nzaerosports.com, and they've got a kick-ass live chat tool on the website if you're wanting to hit someone up right away. These are the crew you're going to want to talk to get those custom orders in. With the stock nylon, once you know what you want, they'll have that shit on a FedEx truck as soon as the credit card machine says approved and get you in the air in no time. For your custom orders, you'll be able to get a time frame for building and shipping when you design it, so get to it. And demos. They've got demos in the US available from their partner Rock Sky Market. The whole US demo fleet is there with Sapphire 3, Crossfire 3, Kraken, JFX2, and Leia canopies in a range of sizes. They also offer student and tandem demos in the US. Bottom line, every step of the way, NZ Aerosports is there to get you what you need, and I personally couldn't be happier to be teamed up with them here on Lunatic Fringe. And now, time to get started with Lunatic Fringe Into the Void, brought to you proudly by NZ Aerosports. Fuck yeah.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go. Back in the can for another edition of Lunatic Fringe, and through the magic, once again, of the internet. I suppose I got to be a little bit more respectful with you guys, because technically I'm looking at my bosses. Kinda, but no, fuck that. Who the fuck are you guys and what do you do?
For me. Who the fuck am I? Okay, my name is Hollie-Blue Allum, and hopefully I'm a few things, but I'm a co-founder of the EdgE agency with Anna Moxnes. The EdgE is a marketing, content, and events agency.
Nice. And I suppose you guys jump out of airplanes every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Anna more than me.
Whenever possible, I like to throw myself at the.
Fair enough. You know, it's kind of funny. I having had the conversation with your dad of all people. I don't think your dad realized
which one's dad.
Yeah, Holly, your dad.
Okay.
Because when I had him on the podcast, we were talking for a moment, and I don't think either of us connected who we actually were. And then I went, "Oh, holy shit! I think that's you're my boss's dad."
Holly's dad, as we like to professionally call him.
Yeah, fair enough. Well,
We both had that moment of transition in our lives where we were
Pete's,
Pete's daughter or Dave's daughter, and then now they became our dads, which is really
so
cool.
this is actually really kind of cool talking to you both, because you guys are both multi-generational skydivers. I mean, you come from skydiving backgrounds to start out, so that actually makes the transition very early into how did you guys get started in the sport. You were born into it, really, right?
It's actually really funny as well. Anna's uncle and my mum and dad owned, was it the first AFF school or in England together as well? So our family have been in business for a while.
Yeah, it was called the Freefall Company.
So being born into it, was it like most kids, you naturally rebel against what your parents do? Did you guys push back against skydiving?
100%.
I went and
Really?
worked for 12 years with a proper salary and everything, just to make sure that I really rebelled properly, you know, and had a 9-to-5 job. That'll show them.
How bizarre is that pushing back against your parents is being a responsible adult?
Making sure I finished university and got good grades. I mean, that'll show them.
Well, so, I mean, how was it, especially in England? I know that it's a lot of the drive with skydiving is community-based because weather can be pretty prohibitive in regard to the actual jumping. So how was it growing up as, I mean, basically a drop zone brat?
There you go first.
I thought it was awesome. I thought it's the best playground, and it's I think that children need a village to raise them, so that's a perfect place on a drop zone. No, you get so many different interactions. I think we probably crossed paths when we were very small on different drop zones, but then didn't meet again until we were like 22-ish.
Yeah.
Oh, I was 22.
Yeah, I think I just finished college.
Yeah, and when we lived together in Imperia Brava for a bit as well. But yeah, I loved growing up in a drop zone. It was a magical place to be. I always pretended I was an aircraft engine, mechanic, and would make myself little pretend aircrafts and fix them and tell everyone.
Don't worry, that's a mechanic.
Yeah, that's no worries, me. And then I'd also used to do shows for people, and I'd make them pay to watch me. So, and the skydivers had to be nice because my dad was running the drop zone. So.
Man,
make money.
And that's so, because like when I was in Sebastian as a kid, I used to sell make those friendship bracelets, you know, and I would make them for skydivers in their colors, like of their canopies and stuff, and for tandem people and everything. And I already knew at that point that I could charge $5 to the local jumpers, but $10 to tandems.
So you were in it from the beginning, you know what was up.
Now, I remember. Sorry, go on.
No, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, another one to add to that, being at a boogie in Poland with my parents and going around and collecting all of the bottles. You could make like a schlotty per bottle or whatever. And skydivers like to drink a lot of beer. So I'd be like dragging a big bag around, just like putting all the beer cans in there.
Nice. Nice.
That actually reminds me of the time I ruined loads of people. Sorry.
No, please go.
How children slavery in skydiving.
Excellent. There you go. You've got your title for the episode now. I remember ruining about 12 people's cars in Sebastian because I was like, I'll wash your car for
with
you.
Rocks.
But like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the right stuff. But I remember them coming up, and I made bank of them coming up and go, it's ruined. I'm like,
Get what
I'm
you
11.
pay.
You chose what this was going for.
Well, like a pack job, you get what you pay for, right? Don't bitch to the packer. Now let me ask, in the UK, are the drop zones like the drop zones in the United States, in that a drop zone in the US, I would have been terrified to have my kid on as she got a little bit older, because it was pretty oof. You know, I mean, especially drop zones like Cross Keys that I worked on that were known for parties and pretty outrageous behavior. Was it like that, or was it like my warped American mind version of Brits and very proper and everyone sitting around sipping
like
tea?
Harry Potter of the drop zone.
Yeah.
I have to ask.
There's probably definitely a reason that I don't remember the drop zones from kind of like 13, 14 out. Like both, I removed myself because I didn't think anything that my parents did was cool, you know. And you're just like, anything that they're into is the most lame thing ever.
Right.
And I'm sure my mum put me in another direction, so I wouldn't be hanging out with the drop zone or all weekend, I think.
I think that's actually a really good point there. I think all that stuff was always going on, and that's part of, you know, growing up in the sport. But I think I was trying to think of I was saying this to someone the other day. I was a teenager or I was a kid, so I actually just didn't care. Like, you know, you as a parent, you're like, oh, like they're so like affected by all this stuff. No, I didn't care. I was off doing other stuff and playing on the drop zone with like my mates, and like we were kind of a gang that were kind of feral.
Yeah,
you know, hiding feral drop zone kids roaming and like zombies.
British drop zones are often built on ex-World War II military bases. There's always bunkers.
Dude,
and like it was so
bunker
cool.
at Gibson.
Yeah, it was
We
really
were
great.
always in there, and it was half full of dirt, and it was like this much space, and we're like in there like
Feral children.
Nice. Well, you know, I guess my worry, especially with my daughter, I was always nervous that she would get into skydiving as she got older into later teenage years, because drop zones, it's pretty highly charged atmosphere, pretty sexually charged atmosphere at times. And I was always terrified having a daughter that would be on the drop zone. I had a good buddy named Paul Wetzel that set the fear in me when he said the easiest way to get your daughter laid is to take her to a drop zone. And it was terrifying, right?
I mean, I remember coming when I rejoined the sport, walking. It was, you have your dad, your mum, your friends. It's great because they immediately are just like fuck off to anybody that comes near. So that's how it was for me. When I felt very looked after.
Yeah,
nice.
That's the awesome thing, right? As a community, we set our own boundaries, and that it should always be safe on a drop zone for men and women.
Well, I remember talking to Melissa Nelson, who said the same thing. She's like, you know, I had a fairy tale childhood growing up on drop zones because everybody knew my dad was Roger Nelson, who'd fucking kill him if anything happened to me. So, and I suppose I never really looked at it that way because I was always just a drogue throwing tandem instructor that I didn't have that kind of weight, you know.
Even, I mean, the thing is, I wouldn't have even just looking at my parents, but just like Leslie or people I grew up with that were always at the drop zone. It felt like I had hundreds of aunts and uncles looking out for me, and also like telling my parents when I was doing shitty stuff, like lying under the table tying people's shoelaces together while they were in line for food and
nice
good stuff.
Now, as you guys got older, how long did it take you before you realized that your parents were not only not doing stuff that you didn't like, but they were not only kind of cool in the sport, but actually like kind of badasses? When did that kick in?
I'd say it took a while. I really I used to meet my mum and dad in England when I went to a primary school, elementary school. They would come to my mum would always show up at the drop zone in a jumpsuit tied around her waist with a bikini, you know, and they had me quite young. So she was like 26 or something picking me up. And I refused to let them come up the road to pick me up because I was so embarrassed that they weren't like the normal parents. So I think that probably like that kind of feeling maintained until I think I was about 14, 15 when I was at school in Sebastian, and like they'd come over to the drop zone, like my dad and Thomas Hughes would come from like skydiving and surfing, and they'd pick me up and all my friends would be like, "There's your family, that's so cool." And I was like, "Oh, I guess maybe it is."
Right. Well, again, I referred to Melissa Nelson as well. She said she hid the fact that or didn't so much hide the fact, but didn't brag about the fact, and just tried to live a normal life outside of that because it was so different from what everyone else was doing. So I suppose I can definitely see that. But looking back, you have to go, oh man, that was a rare opportunity, right?
I mean, I loved the opportunity. I loved it. It took me a while to realize it was actually cool in a way. Like I loved my childhood, but I also just didn't really talk about it because I think it's not something that my friends would have even understood. Like there was no.
I think when you're a kid, you're just kind of in your own little world anyway. You know what I mean? So it's just like this little bubble, and maybe it would be because it was maybe a little bit different. Your parents were younger and closer. My parents were running a drop zone, so they had like a different set of responsibilities, and I don't know. I think it would only be maybe weird when I would maybe lost some friends that you take to the drop zone, and they're just like, "What is this?" Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And then you're like, "Okay, maybe I'm not going to introduce them to this side of my life anymore."
I suppose.
And then I'll do drop zone, and I'll be friends with the
Different
skydiver
compartments.
kids, and I'll be friends with like the pilots kids, and we'll keep those things separate.
I suppose as a younger person, it would be very hard to explain the dynamic on a drop zone because it is so unusual. It really is.
Yeah, and then also I think with like the aircraft and everything around as well, it's difficult for kids to understand like, "Oh, your parents have a plane or whatever." Like, yeah, it's not really how it is, but
Yeah.
We're just really wealthy.
yeah, but not really what you think.
Yeah.
On the other end, yeah, there's always stories about skydivers in there, or somebody dies in the sport, and that comes back to. But so yeah, I think I mostly kept those two things a little bit separate when I was a kid.
Now,
I think
when
it's true of now, right? Like, you know, I like think you talk to your friends that you went to high school or college with, and they like the way that our lives are so around drop zones and like our groups and things like that. It to me, I wouldn't even bother trying to explain it in a way. I think because it's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still have friends that are outside of the sport from when I was a
How
kid.
did you manage it?
I talked very little about any of it, and I rarely speak to them. They don't. It's true. They don't understand the dynamic, and they don't understand the choices you make. And to an outside eye, the lives that we live on a daily basis look a little
Insane.
Outrageous. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but like having said that, I have a couple of friends. I have one specific friend who's been my mate since I was like 3 years old, and she's such a badass. Like she's the most relaxed human you could ever meet. And yeah, she could be at the drop zone. She did tandem when she a little bit later in life, and she's always like come back into different periods of my life and like just really, really enjoyed the skydiving community. So I suppose, yeah, it's how relaxed someone is, I suppose, how open-minded they've been brought up as well.
Sure. Fair enough. Well, and that tends to draw that type of person into skydiving anyway. I mean, you got to be pretty relaxed to hang with the crowds that we hang with. So when did jumping enter the picture again for you guys? Because you'd finished pushing back on mom and dad, but obviously you both got back into the air. So
I mean, I guess my story is probably a little shorter because you've done a lot more in skydiving, so I can quickly talk to it. But I mean, I did my first tandem when I was 9 in Italy, my second when I was 10, and then I think I did my AFF when I was 16, which I'm not sure I could have done. Don't worry about it. And I think I did about 50 jumps over a year or two, and I'd kind of always known that I was going to do my AFF, but I wasn't like, I kind of was like, oh, if I don't do it, that's crazy, you know. So I went to the old tunnel in Orlando and did my AFF and got to jump with, total badasses that I just didn't realize really even whatever. And then I tried to jump. I moved to England to finish high school so I could go to university there, and the weather's lovely. So you really got to want to skydive, and I think I did 2 jumps in the rain and was like, I don't like this much. This is not that great. And I also was really entering a different phase in my life, so I didn't jump for 10 years, I think. I completely just was like, well, if I'm not, and it was never current enough, so the fear was just always like kind of making yourself go to the drop zone, getting in the plane, having the whole thing, and then I'd say at that point, actually, having the Allum name was almost a bit more pressure because I'd get to the drop zone and they're like, "You're 23, like why aren't you like why can't you fly your parachute like your dad?" That's not how it works. I wish that's how it works.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned the fear factor in that, because a lot of people would think someone that's raised around the drop zone would have gotten kind of past that. And it's almost refreshing to hear that someone who was literally around it her entire life still had to cope with the fear of going out and jumping. Because from my perspective, obviously everybody has their own thing, but I used to be terrified driving to the drop zone. I had a marker on the highway that I would allow myself to turn around and go home with my head held high if I turned around by then. But if I drove past it, I had to go make a fucking skydive. Yeah, absolutely. Praying for bad weather, and people don't understand. Why the fuck do you want to do something that's so horrifying And you can't explain what it's like the instant you let go of the airplane, all that goes away, and you don't remember it until you're driving back to the drop zone that next time. So it's very refreshing to hear that even someone that was raised around that still had to deal with that fear factor.
I mean, did you experience the same?
Fuck yeah. But I was actually surprised about it a little bit, you know, because I think I was maybe like a little bit blasé, and the same thing thinking like, and so is my uncle who taught me as well, who with retrospect now, I think that it was the best way to deal with my personality. But he was like, he's a super professional AFF instructor, right? He's got heaps of experience. Him and your dad must have done, I don't know, thousands of AFF jumps together. And yeah, he was just like, yeah, you know this as we go through the course. Like, don't worry about it. And so then I like left, like, no worries, that can be fucking easy. Like, and then the next day walking to the plane, and my legs were so heavy with fear that I really didn't think I was going to be able to put one foot in front of the other. Like, I really remember, I was like, I'm just going to collapse right here on the walk out to the plane in the middle of skydiving in Peru Bravo, where everyone's fucking cool. Do you know what I mean? And he also put me in a purple corduroy jumpsuit and a bright pink buggin Protect helmet.
Thanks, Kevin.
And I was like, cheers, bro. And he just looked at me and he was like, don't worry, Anna, it's a beautiful day to die. And I was like, ah! Yeah. And so I realized that he was having a very good time and I wasn't.
Right.
And it was really, really, really difficult for the first 3 jumps. And then I kind of had a moment there that switched things around a little bit for me, and I felt a little bit more like, it was when like he let me go in AFF, and I felt I had some kind of control and I wasn't just a passenger. And then that the fear started to reduce a little bit from then. So yeah, the more that you learn, it should be the more the fear goes away, right?
Sure. Well, you do get that.
And then you go through a full circle where you start to know, and then you're like, fucking, now I know how the engine works, which means I know how it can fucking brake.
Yes, that's the thing, right? I mean, at one point the switch gets flipped and you're like, okay, I'm willing to accept the fear that I'm going through because I know I can handle it and I know I can handle what's coming up. And then you start something new and the whole fucking cycle starts again, and you're years into the sport and thousands of jumps shitting your pants again. It's just...
I remember going through my rigging license and having a moment like looking up at my canopy going, it's just string. it's fucking string, man.
I think the first time I really, I didn't have a lot of gear fear, but the first time that it really kicked in for me was the first time I ever watched someone pack a parachute, and it dawned on me as I'm watching it, I'm like, those are fucking rubber bands. What the fuck are rubber bands doing in this? This should not be a part of this. I don't understand. And then of course you had to jump your first pack job, and it was horrifying.
Terrifying. Yeah. Terrifying. And the first low jump, terrifying. It's like, what do you even mean? I can't get out here.
Well, and on top of everything, you guys are doing it with a bunch of Brits who are the most sarcastic, dry.
I think that's great, though. I think that really helps. Like,
I do.
You start getting a little bit too self-important, and then you need someone to rip the piss out of you and everything. You're like, oh yeah.
I find when I've not been around England for a while, like you go back and I'm like, oh, I've got to sharpen my skills a bit. Right? Everyone's been too nice to me in America.
Well, you know, it's funny because
it would never be said on a drop zone in England. Maybe now. I don't know.
Well, I've been working consistently with Brits for 28 years now. And if you don't thicken your skin really quickly, you're not going to last. You know, I mean, brutal to the nth degree, and thankful for it. But the deal is you never know when you're being insulted because it's so dry.
Most of the time.
Yeah, most
of the time. Yeah.
But the caveat is that nobody's going to do that with you unless they actually really like you, because it's like an exchange of trust, right?
Yeah.
So if someone's polite to you, like, ooh, they don't like me.
Exactly. I always get that. I feel a bit, people, I was with a group of friends a while ago, and another friend was there, and they were like, do you guys like each other? And I was like, this is our love language.
Yeah, I have a close friend, actually an American friend, but he and I have both worked with Brits for many years, and I don't think Derek and I have said a nice word to each other in 20 years, and I love the guy. He's as close to a brother as you'll ever get. But we've both worked around the English for so long that you kind of take that on. And I remember,
I grew up in Wales.
Yeah, just Welsh.
Oh, fair enough. I got the nickname from a Brit 28 years ago. I got the nickname of Princess, but because I got it from a Brit, I was so happy that he was insulting me that I embraced that nickname, and I've had Princess for 28 years now. Yeah, it was pretty good. It's because
Henry Ford has that sometimes as well.
Go really.
It's a good nickname.
So yeah, no, it served me well. It served. So you've gotten back, or I should say, you've gotten into the sport. You've embraced that which you pushed back against. But when did you decide, all right, this shit's not just a pastime, this is for me? Especially you, Annie. I mean, you've gone balls to the wall for a long time.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I was really in like a full swing moment of passion, and it was so unfathomable to me that anything like competition skydiving or working in the sport or like jumping for a living could be something that's possible for a mere mortal. Because I just saw, I thought everybody was so cool, you know, which was a big inspiration behind the EdgE. Where I started out, and it was the same time when Hollie was around in Puria then, because we realized that there was so much more professional work that could be done. And I also felt that so many skydiving athletes were underrepresented, you know? So it was I was like, guys, like we could definitely sort this shit out. But yeah, in the meantime, I worked for UPT as well, and I was working with Cookie a little bit, and I was on the road because it seemed like a really nice way to get to skydive with a lot of different people, because I was inspired to jump with the different free flyers, was to be at all of these different events. So yeah, I cruised around, jumped with a lot of different people, and yes, somehow it just got out of control. And then because I would be on the drop zone running a stall, and then I remember one time one of the guys running the event came over to me and was like, hey, we're down an organizer, like, can you come and help? And I was like, that seems like a silly fucking idea, because I don't know what I'm doing. And I think maybe it was Fabian Rydell was there working at the time, and he's like, yeah, you're going to be great, just go and do that. And then I kind of switched sides accidentally, and it became I could actually work as an organizer, and I wasn't running stalls anymore, which was really good because I never wanted to blow up another tent in my life or put up another wind blade, because I really didn't want to take anybody's measurements either, because I'd taken so many hundreds of thousands of measurements, and then people for many years afterwards, when I'd stopped measuring for rigs and suits, they'd be like, Anna, can you take my measurements? You're so good at it. And I'm like, okay. So luckily that doesn't happen anymore, but of course if you need your measurements, I'll help you. So yeah, that caveat. Yeah, and then I was kind of maybe starting to think, like, I'd been organizing for a really long time. I'd done some amazing stuff with Amy and the girls, and we'd done a lot of records, and I started to feel like it was possible that, you know, what else I wasn't sure what else I could do, naively. And I tried out for the Norwegian free fly team the year before, and I wasn't accepted. And then actually that's when we started the Joyriders, and we got that whole thing going. And then we were competing, and then it was maybe my first like trickle into competing when I started doing D4W with the Joyriders, and I loved it, and it was insane, and it was like I had every part of me crushed to my bare nothingness, you know. I thought I was a cool organizer or whatever. I knew nothing. I could do nothing. I was useless at everything. I was one. I was just completely crushed. And I remember going through a moment actually with Eliana, who I had just really luckily had to spend the last few days with, like a pivotal moment where I was like crying, and I don't know if I can do this team thing anymore, and all the girls are against me, blah 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 blah. And she was just like, yeah, that's kind of how it is. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I went and I carried on with the girls, and we had like the best ride of our lives with that team. And then a couple of years later, they were trying out for a new Norwegian national team, and the guy that was in charge of all the national teams at the time said he had been really inspired by how, instead of giving up when I hadn't got a place on the national team, that I'd gone out and kind of created my own thing. So he's like, you should try out now. And I was like, dude, I'm way too old. Like, what do you even mean? He's like, no, come on. And he maybe thought I was only going to do it for a year. And then 7 years later, 2 world titles. Yeah, it was another great adventure. So
well, it's kind of funny how when you start out, well, that's one of the best things about skydiving, right? Is that your heroes are so accessible, and the people that are cutting edge are the first ones that are going to hop on a load with a no name and go out and have some fun. At least that's the way it should be, and that's the way that I've always seen it be. And then to go from that and having soul crushing experiences like you had. But the funny thing is, the badasses that will absolutely destroy you during competitions are also the first ones to buy you a beer afterwards and give you tips on how to do the same to them next time around. It's such a badass experience. And then here you are, world champions and titles all over the place later, and people are looking at you the exact same way.
Yeah, and then that's weird, right? Because in your mind, in so many ways, you're just still that person rocking up onto the drop zone. I don't know what I'm fucking doing, man. Like, why are you asking me?
But
so
isn't that the great thing, though? Right? I mean, the idea for me of a true amazing athlete that's crushing it is the one that still probably secretly thinks that they're a fraud waiting to get caught.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, it's because it's the Sky God thing, right? That you get somebody that actually believes in their own hype, and that's the last person in the world I want to jump with. It's the one that knows they're fallible, that is the true badass, that still knows that they've got a lot to learn.
Yeah. The more you learn, the less you understand. That's for sure.
Right.
And the more you learn, the more you want to be better. You want to continue to grow. I think also that if you want to go, sorry, go on.
No, please go ahead.
I think if you kind of get into this experience where you go full crazy with something, because like it's probably some kind of disorder, to be honest. But maybe it's because like things are a little bit awkward for you. So training is you can do this, like this is the thing you set out for the day. You know what you're going to do. You have like markers that you can get better at. So it's a really comfortable place to be.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, if you and maybe you never expect to actually become better at something, but then you're transition to a place where there's an expectation, or maybe you really liked it or for me at least, I loved it at the drop zone because it would be a bunch of people that would just take the piss out of each other all the time. Like there's no expectation. We go and have a full good laugh, and then all of a sudden you're into, okay, now there's something that you're supposed to deliver at the drop zone, and that's a different mindset to step into for sure.
Sure.
So but I really look forward to this year being out of training and just getting back into full piss take at the drop zone, because that's really where I have my best time.
I mean, that is a huge difference, right? When there's nothing at stake other than, going out and having fun and doing something that's a little bit more enjoyable. We also immediately turn that into an opportunity to just insult the living shit out of the people we care most about.
Exactly right. And I think through all of this like cycle I've been through at the moment, like I really, really love training. I really, really love progressing, but I could also like just go out, holding hands with my best mate, looking at the plane and have a fucking time of my life. Do you know what I mean? So often where everybody's everybody, superlatives, not supposed to use them. We're often concerned so much with all our growth and our progression that, we mustn't miss the joy in the journey as well, because that's super important.
#joyride.
Oh, yeah. One of the most freeing things I ever learned in the sport of skydiving was... Yeah, right? One of the most freeing things I ever learned was that I'm an average skydiver. And that took so much weight off of my shoulders, because it meant that I always had something to learn. I would happily admit that I'm probably going to be the one that's going to fuck this skydive up, but it just turned it into a complete joy because there was no pressure involved, right? It was just going out, having fun with my friends and having a good time. And I think that's probably what kept me away from too much competition, because I was just having so much fun being average at what I did.
Yeah, maybe a great metaphor for life as well, right? If we realize our own insignificance, it helps us so much. But
I mean, I have the same mentality about skydiving that the people in the 60s did about acid. If you could just dose everybody once, the world would be a dramatically better place.
But
Heroic
take everybody skydiving once. I like that.
Yes, think about it. I mean, honestly, how many people in the normal world have the opportunity to find out what living in the moment really is?
Yeah.
Very, very few.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. And it's something I think that we've talked about this a lot, and it drives us is not just for a passion from within our own sport, but the way that like now with tandem skydiving, you know, now it's not a new thing. I don't know if you heard about this thing, tandem skydiving. But instead of like when someone tells me like they've done a tandem, I'm like, yeah, you're a skydiver. Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes our family bigger. That's really fucking cool. Like, welcome to the dark side. We have cookies.
Yes.
You know? So, including every, you know, and encouraging them to come again. And yeah, we've definitely like pushed that through our work, and it's transferable to other sports.
Well, it's a huge thing, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest part of learning how to skydive is overcoming that fear to make that first jump. So if you've only made one tandem, in my eyes, you're still a skydiver to some degree, because you did the single hardest thing that any jumper does. You did that first jump. And hats off, because I mean, it's a very small percentage of human beings that will ever experience that. So you're a member of a pretty elite club when it comes down to it, right?
So it's my teammate Mike Delan's hit show. Let me get that in there.
She's going to be doing the what's it called? The Shamrock Showdown. She's
really?
Against Arizona airspeed.
I'm on the drop zone at the same time as Arizona airspeed.
I'm so excited to enjoy Hollie at competition, because competition stresses the shit out of had. Like, so I'm just going to be sitting at the bar, drinking a beer, watching Hollie. We're like, how's it going, babes?
Our name's Delan's hit show because the hashtag is Delan's shit show. Different competition level we're talking about. But I remember on like a certain day, it's four-way FS, because you know we get some excellent free coaching. Thanks, Dad. But I remember we were like stressed out or something, and my teammate Mike was like, "It's just four-way." He's like, try to imagine explaining skydiving in general to like non-skydivers. And then like four-way, like he's like, no one cares. He's like, even skydivers don't care. I was like,
I think something so wonderful about our sport, right? I think me, Mox, and Fred were sitting talking about like all free fly history the other day, and we must have been speaking for about 5 to 6 hours just about specific old school skydivers, old school free flyers. And I was like, wow, we're probably the 3 only people in the whole world that care about this, you know? And we love it so much.
Oh, yeah. I remember sitting at the desert drop zone in Dubai, and a newer jumper was sitting on the packing mat next to me. We were shut down. I wasn't flying at the time. And Omar Al-Hijalan was out there doing some organizing. And a few people had mentioned him, and we're talking about him a little bit. And this newer jumper turns to me and said, "Who is this Omar guy?" And I almost slapped him. I'm like, that's the Omar. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, there are other Omars, but that's the Omar. I'm like, don't get it twisted.
Yeah, I love Omar so much.
Yeah, like, and I remember my journey started right about the time that Omar and Olav and the boys were kicking it all off with the Chronicles videos. You know, I mean, I was in the ghetto in a trailer watching an old VCR tape of Chronicles 1 along with South Park back and forth back in the day. And that was when you'd watch Olav, jogging upside down to the camera, doing a couple of loops and then running away going, "Oh my God, holy shit. What did I just see? I gotta do that." And to all these years later, have someone not even know who Omar was or any of the history was just almost sacrilegious to me.
Yeah, you got to sit them down and be like, right, you're watching this, and this. I've done that.
Yes, and then you have to put the caveat, and you always have to put the caveat in there. These guys had to learn 45 seconds at a time because there were no tunnels back then.
Yeah, it definitely.
Listen here, young whippersnappers.
Yes.
When we walked to school in the snow.
No, yeah.
Right.
And when I was in Dubai recently, I got to do a jump with Omar, and it's probably one of the best jumps I've ever done. Like I had a it was a super pleasure to jump with him, and it jammed. It was real nice. And I remember like we were breaking off face to face, and we're head up, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm in crosswinds." This is it. Life level achieved.
Awesome. By the way, for anybody listening that has no fucking clue about that, Crosswinds is a video.
I will sit you down and make you watch it.
Yeah, Crosswinds is a video that you absolutely should watch.
And it has the best head-up scene with Omar.
Yes. I remember I was at a birthday celebration for Omar a few years back, and we'd become friends over the previous couple of years. And he's so nice that you have to wonder what's wrong with him. Because, right? I'm like, nobody can.
Like, no, he's just nice.
Yeah, but I had to ask him, and it was in front of a room full of all his friends. So nice? Yeah, no, I actually asked him, I'm like, dude, how the fuck are you this nice? In front of all his friends, I'm like, I don't understand. How can you possibly be this nice? Because I was just blown away by how giving he is in the sport and how outgoing he is just as a person. Was absolutely floored by it. And for that to be the guy who I had hero worship for in 96, and now I'm asking him stupid questions at his birthday, or interviewing him when we were up towards Mount Everest when they were doing the Everest jumps, was just, again, it just speaks to how amazing the community is and how accessible your heroes from every generation in the sport are. You know, I mean,
they're the best sport in the world.
Yeah. I mean, Hollie, your dad included, you know, sitting and talking to your dad, Hollie, or I just had Scotty Milne on the podcast. He's going to be released as well. Rock star human beings in the sport that are just willing to sit down and shoot the shit with you. It's so cool. It really is.
I remember, I think especially kind of growing up with dad, and how much I'd always see that he would give to people in the sport that would ask questions, and that he'd have the time. And that now when you see people that aren't quite as nice and kind of maybe believe their own hype a bit, you're always a bit like, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. Do you think that's a kind of a byproduct of the social media age that we're in, and that it's all about personal hype? I
would say, well, obviously, as someone who spends a fair amount of time on social media, I would say that twats have always walked among us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the people who are driven to the sport because they want to be a skydiving influencer or something like that, you know, maybe social media has kind of made that them more aware of it. But I think it's also the good thing I would say about social media is it's also made loads of people who would never have even been aware about the sport. Like, how often, like, I live in DeLand, have I like been out in town and people are like, there's a drop zone here, and you're like, you don't know there's a drop zone here, and you've lived here your entire life. Like, how many people have discovered the sport through social media because they managed to see like a viral reel or have way more awareness?
It's also what, and it's why we also love working in that space, is we feel that we have a good insight to the sport and the different athletes, and and we weight real experience over maybe purchased likes, or, you know, and it's something that we've always been quite passionate about from the beginning, to just representing and helping real athletes. And it's the same with the brands that we work with too. Like, we're not working with anyone who we think is a dickhead. Like, end of.
Yeah.
Boom. It's much better working. Like,
yeah, and
it's like huge dickhead warning. Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
But it's also so weird when you say that to people and they're like, oh wow, that's awesome, and you're like,
you can do it too.
Be that crazy like that. Like, you shouldn't work with people that aren't nice.
If somebody's not nice, you don't work with them. It's quite simple.
Yeah, but that's the so-called real world, right? I mean, you're groomed in the real world that you just have to put up with whatever shit's thrown at you because that's the job, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, actually, that was kind of the way I came back into the sport after a 9-10 year break. I was working for a tech startup company, which I loved. I was in New York and I was really enjoying it. But I'd spent time working for a few marketing agencies and some publishers, Vice magazine as well.
That was a big one. I went to visit her. It was very cool.
But I had a really good job. I really liked the people I worked with, but I was definitely starting to feel, I don't know, a little like there was something else. And I remember my mum called me and was like, okay, you've been working long enough in the real world and you've been making some good money. There's a job at Performance Designs. They're looking for somebody to do social media and content. I think you should apply. And I did. And then 2 weeks later, I left my job and moved to DeLand, and there you go.
Oh, that's awesome. That's one of my favorite things about this podcast. And speaking of the social media aspect and not working with assholes, the other thing is too, the people that you have following the accounts and the work that you're doing truly have a passion for what they're following. So the followers that you have are there because they dig what you do. They're not bot followers. The people that listen to this podcast listen to it because they want to hear the stories of a bunch of jumpers, which is awesome.
Do you know, I don't suppose do you know the photographer Tim Tadder?
I maybe.
Really good. And like you studied photography, didn't you? And like, so it's super passionate. Like, this is one thing I never experienced on social media before. Like, he followed us. I was like, yes, oh my God. I took a picture of it, screenshot it, sent it to all my photographer friends. I was like, ha, ha.
The coolest thing I ever had happen to me was I submitted a skydiving video to Aussie Man Reviews. That was my big thing. He took it. He actually did it. And I was like, oh my God, that's the real world. That's something in the real world. Yeah. So how did the idea of the agency start? First off, tell me about the agency. What exactly is it that you do? How did it get started?
Do you want to take the start and then I'll...
Yeah, I think I said a little bit already about the start. We started back in 2008, and that was with the going on the road and the representing different brands. And then all the way, I mean, when did we launch in the States? It was in...
Time hasn't been...
is it 4 years ago?
Almost maybe 4 years. We miss every year anniversary.
And then it was maybe also at a PIA. We started
which is very funny because we're heading to PIA.
We're heading to our first PIA together. It was like I needed more organization. Hollie is awesome, and we'd been doing a very similar work, but in different areas. Hollie at a higher level in London and working with Vice magazine, and super experienced in specifically social media. I've been doing lots of different marketing, some direct marketing, and we decided that we would use what we've learned in the skydiving industry and offer it to everybody. So taking what we learned in a niche area and start to branch out a little bit. So we now have a company in Europe, and we also 4 years ago we set up the LLC in the States. And since I'd say the conception of the LLC, it's just gone like all of the things that we'd ever conceived for the last like 10, 12 something years, now they're happening, you know, which is really weird. And we've probably learned more. We've really learned a lot as well in the last 4 years, I'd say.
I'm tired. When will the learning stuff?
Yeah,
Anna always says she's like, there'll be an experience or something, and she's like, oh Hollie, don't worry though, this is good. It'll just be another good story for us. And I'm like, Anna, we have enough. I have enough stories.
Enough character building already.
My character is fully formed.
I think, and I think that's we're definitely entering a new ass-kicking stage. You know what I mean? Like becoming more successful and having more clients and interesting projects to work on. Stuff doesn't really get easier. It definitely becomes.
And I just talk a little more. So like the agency itself kind of has some core elements that we offer. So one is that we are a full service marketing agency. We do specialize.
It's like, see, professional.
To balance, yang. We do specialize in social media, as Anna mentioned. I mean, I've been working in social media for over too long, this many wrinkles, and 12 years or something. But one of the things that we were really passionate about was having people that work with us that work on accounts that they love, that are like the ultimate fans of those accounts, and so that really kind of formed us, as you know.
Yes.
As part of the EdgE collective yourself. It's a cult. I love it when it sounds like that. Is pairing brands with the right people from the collective, where they're like, oh, we love that. We love that product. We love what they stand for, the lifestyle, because Like,
then your job is easy.
and
Sure.
but
You
also,
know?
like, we love work. We
Yeah,
talked about this
we
a lot.
really
Like,
like working.
I love working. Like when someone's like, "Oh, you want another day off?" You're like, "No, it's Saturday. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Let me do it." So with that in mind, that's really what we wanted to create with our team, was that they were as passionate as the brands and were excited and wanted to see their success. So that's the social media side, but we do everything from email marketing to marketing strategies to blog posts and everything else in between. We do a fair amount of content production, photography, videos,
Events.
and then events is a huge one. Anna's been running events in skydiving and in the real world for years.
Yeah. Fashion shows, even anything you can imagine it. If you need to promote it or sell it, and we like you,
and we like you,
we do it.
Well, I think that's actually really important. You know, as the same with our collective, it's about, as a brand approaches us, thinking if it's the right fit. You know, obviously if we're approaching a brand, we've already seen that there's a really good fit there and we think that we've got something to offer. But it's also really important to us to be honest where a brand approaches us, where we could be like, hey, we actually don't think there's a good fit, or we don't think we'll be the right ones to tell your story. We'd much rather be honest and us all enjoy the process together. And
well, that keeps you guys with a positive reputation, right? Because the worst thing in the world you can do is take on an account that you can't fulfill properly. Then you just get a shit reputation for doing a bad job.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. And I've always had that. I don't know, like, I've always been lucky maybe in the beginning, and had such great mentors in business that I think, like, have told me things like, Cookie told me once, like, thing is, Anna, you just never want to work for the man. I was like, yeah, bro. You know, and I met them when they were just building from their shed. Do you know what I mean? And I set my stall up next to them and decided, like, a mate of mine had a double malfunction, and he was convinced that his cookie helmet saved him. And he was talking about these guys from Oz. And I thought, like, I really have to meet them. So I, like, snurked in, set my stall up next to them, started talking about rugby, took them out for a curry. We all got on really, really well.
English/Welsh.
We were in England. And then, like, messaged them the week later to tell them how they were going to be working with, why they needed me. Apparently, Cookie tells me this. I don't remember. I was so blunt, you know, and how I was going to make it work for them. And we had such a great relationship then together for like 10 years, I think. And then I'm an athlete with them. But yeah, I've always had great mentors. We've always worked with people that we really, really love, and brands that we really, really love. And then it's not work. And that's the thing with our collective, you know.
Sure.
Almost all of the people that we work with, it's not their main job. They want to live in their van, they want to surf, they want to fly, they want to do other things, but they also need to eat, you know. So we have, like, a structured environment that they can do the creative about things that they're just completely passionate about, because then really it doesn't feel like work. And then the customers, our clients, they get the best from each creative then.
Sure.
Because it's somebody in a box that's forced to write something cool in a way, you know. It comes.
Well, there were a few things. Yeah. Well, there were a few things that I really appreciated about it, because when I approached you guys, goodness, it would have been probably close to 2 years ago now. I kind of just needed an outlet for creativity. Blue Skies magazine had stopped. I'd been writing for them for 10 years and had always taken it for granted that I just got to, you know, vomit my ideas out onto pages and they would print it. And I was really kind of stagnant not being able to do that. And what I appreciated about everything was that you guys were looking for people that were passionate, that fit specific brands, but weren't shy to say, this has changed direction. We're going to look for something different for you. I appreciated that. I have a very specific tone and a very specific way of you know, delivering my way of selling things. But I need someone that's going to say, yeah, your tone's not good for this brand, but maybe this one or that one. And I liked that. I really did enjoy that. And it was nice to know that the way that you guys approach things is, just because you don't fit one brand doesn't mean that down the road you're not going to fit something else. So it's not rejection. It's just hey, we're going to wait until you are a better match for something else. You know, I mean, for somebody like me, there's a Blue Skies magazine comes along once in a lifetime that lets me write literally anything I wanted and just had a blast with it, you know. Not to mention then, and poor Holly, you can attest to this, I'm really bad at paperwork. Like I'm really bad at paperwork.
How?
She had to make a video presentation to teach me how to do the spreadsheets, and I still fuck them up.
I love spreadsheets as much as I do.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
can
so
I can fly planes and I can write, but no, I'm bad at paperwork.
yeah, it's not an uncommon thing. And so that's how we kind of work, right? We match creatives with strategic people, and within every creative, like you're definitely a strategic person as well, right? But in different moments in your life, there'll be the different strengths that kind of put their head up. And by matching these people and by the working structure we have, we see that it brings out the best in people, you know.
Sure.
And that you're never bad at anything. It's just you're going to move over here, you know, and or for me, I need change. I need things to change because I'll get very bored creatively quite quickly. So, but I also really need structure. So I'm a human. How do we do this human thing? So yeah, we really like this, that we can always flex and move and change and adapt to who we've got and what we've got. Flex, yeah, you know.
Well,
that's also of us right now in terms of where the agency is moving. So you know, a big a change that we had at the end of the year, beginning of this year, was to take me out of the kind of marketing director role where I was sort of the day-to-day in the weeds with the agency, with clients and all the team members, because we realized that, you know, we want to take this further and see what else we can achieve. So we were super lucky. We've had Shani Couch working with us for a few years now.
Yeah.
And
only the coolest person in the world, no big deal.
Pretty much. She pretty much is. Shani Couch is, I mean, hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down. Yeah.
She's going to be running
So we
the
caught
world.
her and then we didn't let her go, and we're not gonna. So she's really running the agency for us now, and doing exceptional work. But it really allows us as well, and kind of in what you were saying about changing and realizing we need different things at different times, that if we want to take this to the next level, that we need to be focusing on our business and our brand as well.
Sure. Now give me a 5-year goal for the agency. Where do you guys see yourself aiming?
World domination.
That.
I think. Yeah, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say, I think a really big thing that you kind of mentioned this earlier was that, you know, we grew up in this sport. We're so grateful for everything that sports offered us, and I think the way it allows us to think about community, the way it allows us to communicate with niche sports in a way, has been something that we've been really enjoying in the last year or so, opening up to people outside of skydiving. So still staying, like, you know, if a brand approaches us, for example, we work with a TV show on outside TV channel called Beat Monday, and the guys are all about getting the most out of Friday from 5 p.m. till Monday 8 a.m. So hiking mountains, skiing every mountain in California. They wanted to do the AFF in a weekend. They were like chatting to us about it. But for me, where I really think it's exciting is taking it further and just continuing to work with brands we admire, people we admire, but taking it beyond and kind of discovering new communities.
Exactly, which is change and growth for us as well as individuals. And it's super interesting. And yeah, growing the opportunities for the collective, for all of the people that work with us, like that's really inspiring. They're such amazing people, and we want to keep working with all of these individuals, and we want, so we're like, yeah, we've got to keep them interested, you know. But it's also allowed us to talk about courses. Hey, oh my God. Secret squirrels. No, but it's also made us realize, you know, we've over, you know, 10 to 15 years, we've taken a really long time to build up our skills within social media, within marketing. And we also need to train people to come onto our team and have those skills, which is allowing us now to start building out courses within our kind of wheelhouse. That's something that we'll have it as its own product as well. For people who either to maybe work in the space or want to figure out how to do it for their own brands, but can't actually afford an agency, because at the end of the day, we respect that. Like, you know, I think we were just speaking to a company the other day, and they were like, we want to work with you so much, but we're like crowdfunding to finish our app. We don't have the money right now. And we're like, well, we want you to succeed because we believe in what you're doing. Yeah. So there's got to be another way that we can work with them. So yeah, world domination. Yeah.
Nice. Well,
world domination is anything too.
Sure. Well, I've definitely seen a few posts specific to the Edge and specific to the vision that you guys have got come out lately, which is really neat to see as well, because I think there are a lot of people out there that would love to take advantage of the opportunities that social media has to offer. And let's face it, social media is not going anywhere ever again. I mean, we're in it. This is the very beginning. It's just going to keep getting more and more. So people that are kind of floundering and have no idea what the hell they're getting themselves into are going to turn to people like you that clearly have been doing it for quite some time and have a base of knowledge that can help forward their careers.
Yes, exactly that. Thank you.
You should come and work for us.
That sounds. You should definitely do that.
You think? All right, I'll consider it. So as we wrap things up, I want you to tell everybody how they follow the Edge, Anna, how they follow your competition, all the jumping, and now you're not competing anymore, but you're out playing and taking the piss out of people. So where do they come?
I think we might go. We're actually thinking with Zion that maybe we're going to do a crew team. So we might, because we're of that age now, right? So maybe we're going with crew dogs. It's going to be real fun.
Nice.
So that's the next way I'm going to scare myself half shitless, is being in some kind of canopy wrap, I'm sure, shouting at my teammates.
Yeah.
But the teams are Zion Free Fly and the Joyriders. So it's Joyriders Life on Instagram and Joyriders on Facebook, and the Edge.
So the View from the Edge on Instagram, that's probably the best place in terms of day-to-day updates, I would say. And for people who want to know more about the company, the edge.no is the bigger company,
because the edge.no.
I like it.
And then specifically edgeagency.no is the kind of the day-to-day marketing agency.
Okay, so the edge.no is where your aspiring writers and social media semi-gurus are going to go if they want to try and work with you.
Exactly. That's where we house our blog. It's where we have our Edge hats. It's where, one of the big things about the Edge is that we also want to continue to invest in businesses where we see something that's kind of interesting. So that's kind of like the home base, really. And then Edge Agency is specifically
business to business.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean,
email us, see you at the Edge, which is see you at the edge.no.
I love it. Guys, I can't thank you so much for taking the time this morning to sit down and talk to me. It's very fun to see that you're still obviously very excited about what you're doing, both jumping and with the agency. And I hope that it continues for a very long time, not just because I want to see it succeed, but because I fucking work for you guys. So let's go.
Hey, Dean, it's super nice to get to spend time with you. Thank you so much.
This was really fun.
Yeah. And I'm so on point with the time. This is only 2 minutes.
Professional.
Very professional, sir.
Absolutely. I'm getting the hang of it. Thanks, guys.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.
And there you have it. Another episode of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void, brought to you as always by, and say it with me, fuck yeah, NZ Aerosports. Head to nzaerosports.com. By Pussfoot. That's right, head to pussfoot.com, the extreme sports collective, and check out everything they've got to offer. By summitparachutesystems.com. Jarrett Martin and the family cranking out amazing pilot rigs, as well as incredible rigging courses. And now joining the Lunatic team, it's the one and only Tony Suits. You know him, you love him. Head to tonysuit.com. Check out all the amazing standards, as well as the new incredible signature line they've got going on. And as for us, the Lunatic Fringe is now on YouTube. That's right, you're going to have the chance to put faces to the audio by heading to youtube.com and looking up the Lunatic Fringe podcast. It's easy. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check out all the amazing videos from the previous guests that we've had, as well as new and upcoming interviews on video. As always, I am the fucking pilot. Head to thefuckingpilot.net or theprincesspilot.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time around.
Disappear in the middle of the night.
Well, holy shit. I actually managed to do it. After procrastinating for ages, I finally managed to produce an audiobook version of the Lunatic Fringe book. It's currently available on all Amazon sites, audible.com, and shortly on iTunes. And if you're the page-turning type, it's also, of course, still available in Kindle form, paperback, and hardback on Amazon. 10 hours and 10 years worth of Blue Skies Magazine's articles, all available to you right fucking now, including a few author's notes and even an apology or two. Enjoy.